welcome to Colleagues Getting Coffee. My name is Annelies James, and today I'm joined by Ian Skinner, business owner and founder of BIG, or Business Improvement Group. Hello.
Morning, Annelies. Nice to see you.
How are you?
Very well, thanks.
Good. So what is BIG, my darling? Tell me a bit more about this.
So the Business Improvement Group was formed on the basis that lots of people need help, certainly new businesses, new business startups, and businesses that are struggling to take the business from where they are now to the next level have found it exceptionally difficult without the additional resource of training and mentoring support. And we believe that mentoring support is the quickest way to accelerate your business development, and we feel that there's a huge market gap for people who are operating in the new business startup sector, and our sole purpose is to provide affordable mentoring and learning support for new business owners.
Because it's something like 95% of business startups will fail in the first 5 years.
Well, in point of fact, actually, I think that the time period is even less than that.
Is it?
Yeah, and there are specific industry figures. For example, catering businesses are one of the biggest failure rates out there in commerce. It's 9 out of 10 businesses will fail in the first year in catering.
Yeah, wow.
In cleaning terms, one of the businesses that I run, 8 out of 10 cleaning businesses will fail in the first 15 months. So there are some really, really disastrous businesses out there that can't function because of lack of support.
And for a lot of people who set up a business, it's a real dream. So it's sad that that passion will die because they can't, literally just don't have the resources to make it work.
It's interesting you use that word passion. Lots of people start businesses because they're passionate about something in particular, whether it be a skill that they've got, whether it be an idea that they've got, and they form a business based on that without really thinking about the tools they need to be able to run that business. That's where we come in. Yeah. We can help by supporting them, by helping them to develop those tools and those skills in order to give their businesses a long-term future.
So what would you say then the top tools are that people need to be successful?
Certainly they need to be able to develop some resilience. Resilience is one of the strongest characteristics that any business owner or leader will need, because people will say no to you, people will knock you down, but you have to keep getting back up. So resilience is probably my top characteristic that I would suggest people need to develop.
Yeah. What other ones? Have you got any other suggestions?
People need also to be able to sell their ideas. Sales is a vastly underrated skill, and lots of people don't want to be associated with the word sales because they have these ideas and these visions of salespeople who are a little bit sneaky or a little bit snide, but believe you me, salespeople account for, I think, the top 15 to 20% of highly skilled people in business. And let's be absolutely honest about this. No sales, no business.
Absolutely. And I think people just feel generally uncomfortable, particularly when it comes to like pricing or even negotiating any sort of price as well. People are just like, oh my God, please, I can't cope with this, because they just feel really uncomfortable with it.
Well, I think interestingly enough, and one of the things that we will go into more detail as our big business develops, is the issue about sales. Fundamentally, sales is all about closing. And people tend not to spend too much time learning how to close, which for me seems to be a little bit the wrong way around, because if you can't close and you find closing extremely difficult, then spend some more time learning how to close, because all that work up until the point where you get the opportunity to close is kind of wasted if you can't close the deal. So all that research, all that qualification, all that presentations, all that proposal work can be wasted if you can't close the deal.
Yeah.
Now currently my business operates at an 80% conversion rate, which is incredibly high for a service-based industry. People ask me why their businesses are struggling. When I look at the conversion rate, and often it's below 20%, there's an immediate answer as to why the businesses aren't getting on very well.
It might be dependent on the specific situation, but what would be your tip to close then? What do you do?
I think it's really important to know your customer and know what they need and know what their pain points are, and you have to develop your proposal and your pitch to suit and to solve their problems. Now, lots of people will develop 2, 3 or even 4 closing strategies. My advice is to develop 20, because you need 2 more closing strategies for every objection strategy that a client will have. Generally, clients will have 3 or 4 objection strategies in their mind. You need to be able to counter every one of those and then have some more to be able to throw back at them in order to close the deal. Closing is so important.
God, it's fascinating actually. I always find this when, you know, people ring you and they're like trying to sell you something and you say, oh no, so I haven't got time. And you're talking about objection handling, aren't you? But I'm just like, I'm like Patsy in their hands, because I'm like, well, I don't know what to say. I can't get out. How do I do it?
And that's the skill of the telesales operator or the person trying to organise the opportunity to sell to you.
Yeah.
Sometimes the easiest thing to do is just say, I'm not in the need for what you're selling, and when I am, I'll give you a call.
Yeah.
So often it's okay having, from a sales perspective, having all these closing strategies, but as a buyer you also need to have objection strategies, and 2 or 3 isn't enough.
It's like
Even
chess, isn't it?
It kind of is, and people have to remember that it is a bit like a game. You just need to know how to play the game.
It's fascinating stuff. So tell me more about Big. How does it work? What's the vision? What are you doing?
Well, from my perspective, over the last 10 to 12 years, as my business knowledge and experience has grown, I get asked on a daily basis for help and support. People phone me and ask me for solutions to problems they didn't even know existed. And so after discussion with my wife, who's one of my greatest supporters, suggested that there might be an opportunity to turn this into a business. So we tested the market, and 6 months ago we took on 2 mentors that we worked with very closely at no charge to them whatsoever. We're absolutely amazed to see the difference in these 2 individuals and how their businesses and their personal lives have changed. The confidence that they exude, the way they go about their daily business is so different to how it was 6 months ago. So we decided that we could actually turn this into a business, and we developed BIG, or the Business Improvement Group. This is all about affordable mentoring, one-to-one, peer-to-peer mentoring. This is all about learning opportunities and training opportunities, but at affordable prices. Many of the businesses that we want to help don't have a budget for training or for mentoring. Many of them will never have a budget for mentoring or training because they don't know how to create a budget for it. One of the things that we'll be looking to do is to find ways of helping them to be able to afford it through 2 direct routes. One will be to help them to find ways of saving costs and reducing the costs, and the other will be through helping them to improve their profits and bottom line. Then we will ask them if they want to invest in themselves and their business, which of course that they'll need to pay, but a modest amount, an affordable amount, as opposed to rates that you can get charged by any number of other coaching businesses.
And some of the prices that coaching companies and mentoring companies charge is just absolutely astronomical.
Well, look, I mean, price is a sensitive subject to many people, and I'm not suggesting that those coaches or those organisations that charge considerably more than we do don't offer value for money. It depends on your perspective. I guess it also depends on the level of support that you think you might need or you're offered, and I suppose it depends on the results that they provide for you. But I've got to say that yes, we are aiming at the lower end of the market, markets that traditionally don't have a lot of money to spend. As I said, we're happy to work for people or work with people and not charge them until they get to the point where they start seeing results based on the knowledge and the support that we give them.
And I think that's really nice, because as a business startup myself, I come across other startups who are spending loads of money on offices and desks and all this stuff, or marketing themselves, and I think, okay, that's fine, but if you're not making money yet, like, how are you spending so much money? So for me, I was really tight-fisted when I started, but I was like, I can't go to that networking, I can't afford it. Even if it's like 25 quid, I was like, nope, I'm not going anywhere until I've made some money and I can start paying for stuff. So it's nice if you're making it cost-effective for people.
I think that's really important, and one of the things that's really interesting is people complain about austerity measures from the government and about how frugal the government have been trying to be in terms of spending money on public services. And look, of course, I'd love them to spend more money on public services, but as a business owner and as a family member or a leader of a family, if we can't afford to buy things, we go without. If we can't afford to invest in things, then we don't invest. And I think you're right. I think it's useful to be in a position or have that strength to say, look, at this stage I can't afford it. I'm going to earn the privilege, and I'm going to earn the right to be able to spend money on it. But don't forget, there are people out there who are very good at getting you to spend your money. So what I'm offering is people the opportunity to learn how not to spend the money when they don't need to. And they're just called good business decisions, and have the strength and knowledge and understanding of how to say no. Sometimes people don't have that strength based on confidence to say no. And there are some really good salespeople out there.
You've you've got an extensive history in business, and this is why Big has come about, isn't it? It's like basically cracking open your head and just sharing that knowledge. So tell me a little bit more about your history.
Okay. So if I go way back to even when I was born, my memory's quite scant about that because I was only little at the time. But I was born one of 11 children.
Oh, wow.
So 7 sisters and 4 brothers.
That's crazy.
Yeah, well, not for me. I mean, it was something that we were used to. What's interesting though was growing up part of a brood of children where there were 7 girls, and because of the type of family that we were, I don't think I ate a meal sitting down till I was 14 because there were only 6 dining chairs, and of course, having 7 girls in the family, they all got to sit down before us. I think my first sitting down meal at 14 was when one of my elder sisters left home to get married and move into their own home. But one of the things that being part of such a large family did was taught you how to be competitive. It taught you how to stand on your own 2 feet, and it taught you how to be resilient because you got knocked down every day by one of your brothers or your sisters. There's always somebody bigger and better than you are. So this thing about resilience, I think that's where that comes from. But then in desperation to get my own bed and to get someone to sit down, I joined the Royal Navy, and of course they gave me a bed, they gave me everything I wanted. They gave me my own pit to sleep in, they gave me the chance to travel the world and to learn a trade. So I learned to be a chef, or rather I should say, I learned to be a cook. I tried to be a chef in Civvy Street when I left the Royal Navy. Unfortunately, that just wasn't very successful because I was pretty crap at it, to be honest. But what I did find was that the leadership skills that I'd been given and I'd been trained with in the Royal Navy made me an ideal candidate for management in any kind of industry. And so I worked in catering and cleaning and facilities management type services and progressed very, very quickly, managed to get some great pay rises, managed to get some great positions in some good companies, and learned an awful lot. And during the time that I worked for the businesses, I had the opportunity to start other small businesses for myself, things that I was really keen to explore and exploit. So we set up small catering businesses. I even had a small marketing business, which was probably the most profitable business I've ever run, but that only lasted a month. It was a one-off project for a new restaurant opening in Southampton, and we made a fortune. That led me to work for a couple of the largest cleaning companies in the country, and to be fair, I didn't particularly enjoy that. So my wife said, well, stop talking about what you'd like to do and just get off your backside and do it.
Yeah,
so about 25 years ago, we started looking into opening a business for ourselves, and we started the Diverse Cleaning Company. After I think 6 or 7 years, we opened a second branch up in Lancashire called Diverse Cleaning Company North, and they've been running side by side for the last 22 years. And now we've been looking towards moving further towards our retirement age. I'm not suggesting that we're going to retire, but I wanted something which would give me the opportunity to concentrate something more locally as opposed to regionally and nationally. And we thought about what my biggest passion is, and that's helping and developing people. And throughout my career, developing people has been my number one priority. And I think it comes out of one simple fact, that is that, the better people you work with, the better you become yourself. I think it's so important to have the confidence to have better people working with you and for you, as opposed to you being the best of the team.
In my opinion, you seem to be quite a natural leader. Is that something that you've developed through your career? Is it something that you feel you help people with when you're mentoring them?
Interesting question. It takes a lot of hard work to look this natural. And it takes a lot of years and a lot of experience to look this natural. And if that sounds conceited, I don't mean it to. But people often ask me, are leaders born or they're created? I don't think leaders are born at all.
Yeah.
I think they're developed. They're developed by the circumstance in which they live, the circumstance in which they work, and the circumstances around them. And it takes a long time to become a successful leader. But I think there are certain traits that all good leaders have, and I'm happy to share some of those with you.
Yes, please do. I was just going to ask.
So following a great article that was published on LinkedIn on the other day by someone I'm a massive fan of, a guy called Paul Kincaid. And if you want to learn more about leadership in particular, look this guy up. He's got a lot of great things to say. But Paul talks about great leaders being able to be like chameleons, being able to adapt to the circumstances that any given situation will throw up. And that's a great tip, because in the services, I know that Paul is ex-services, and the same way that I am. One of the huge things that they advocate for leaders to understand is this thing about assimilation, about adaptation, and about overcoming. In any given situation, if you can apply those three strategies to any problem, then the chances are you're going to come up with a great solution. But being a chameleon is not just about changing and adapting to the given circumstances. Chameleons also have an amazing amount of courage, and when the circumstances merit it, they won't change their shape or their colour. They'll stay as they are, and they will promote themselves exactly as who they are, a chameleon, without changing colour. So this ability to adapt is so important, and that can also apply to great salespeople. They also can be and need to be chameleon-like, being able to adapt at a moment's notice to suit the client's requirements. For example, a client can go completely left field without any notice whatsoever, and you have to be able to adapt, and you have to be able to suit that client's needs as they change. So that's one of the greatest tips I would suggest, is that be like the chameleon and adapt to the circumstances whenever they require it.
I think as well with leadership, in my experience, is that you have to show people, you have to show them, take them on the journey with you and lift them. So when I've had teams previously, it's about me lifting them. They do an amazing job, but we all sort of rise together.
I think it's a great point, and I think that this leadership by example, which is what you're talking about, is fundamental to successful teams. And often leaders are not even promoting the fact that they're leading. They just go out and do it, and then people will follow. People will gravitate towards people who set high, strong examples. And people will, just look to the army or look to the forces. How can you get people to jump over the trenches and to go and face the enemy face on unless you've got excellent leaders? And if you go back to those days, and I'm not an advocate of war, but if you just look at those examples, the first guys over the trenches were generally the officers in charge.
Absolutely.
Follow me, guys, and they would go.
Yeah, there's a difference between leaders and managers, isn't there?
Absolutely,
managers
absolutely.
Go that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
See ya.
Absolutely.
I'll see you when you get back.
And that's why the word lead is in leaders, because they go to the front and everyone else follows.
I love it. It's kind of emotional as well, isn't it? Because you're part of a group mentality, you're part of a community rather than one person like I'm the big I am. It's nice to make it sort of more equal. I had
a great leader when many years ago I used to work for Pizza Hut.
Okay.
When it was a small company of about 30 sites, and during the period that I worked for them, they grew from 30 to about 230 sites. I'm not suggesting for a minute I was responsible for the growth, but I was certainly responsible for the training of many of the trainee assistant and restaurant managers during that period. But I had an area manager that used to come down and visit on a monthly basis. And I always remember one of the stories he used to tell me. He was a young guy with a massive amount of responsibility at a very early age. And he used to say that when he used to come to work, he used to walk every morning to and from work. And he loved the fresh air. And I said to him, so how do you get to work now? He said, I run. I'm so keen to get to work now. I run to get to work. And this was a guy I would follow anywhere. I used to hang on his every word. And he was 10 years younger than I was.
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't it? If you meet inspiring people, it really doesn't matter how old they are.
No, you're absolutely right.
What experience they have. If you're just like, wow, I'm invested.
Yeah. And that's where the emotional investment comes from. Once you get that emotional connection, generally you will follow them wherever they go.
So, random question. Do you have a favourite business quote?
No, I don't. Sorry, I just completely killed your question, but I don't.
Or like a mantra that you follow, something like that?
Okay, so just work harder than everyone else.
Simple.
Just very simple. Work harder than everyone else.
That's a good one.
I mean, there are lots of different mantras and there are lots of different sayings out there. Some of them are pretty naff. So I try not to remember stuff that's not important to me. And often if I need something, I'll just make it up.
Quoted by Ian Skinner.
Yeah, you've got it. You've got it.
Amazing. Thank you so much for today. Where can people find out more about you and about Big?
Okay, so you can find us on LinkedIn. We're massive advocates of LinkedIn. We post on 2 or 3 times a week. If you want to contact me direct, then you can get me through my email address, which is ian@businessimprovementgroup.co.uk, or you can contact me through our website, which is www.businessimprovementgroup.co.uk.
Perfect. And we'll share some links anyway so people can connect with me.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you. I really enjoyed it.